This past June, I was in New York City for a crypto conference, and it was there that I met our guest today. PoOn is the head of community at Aptos, and today she joins the pod to talk about the importance of community not only in crypto and Web3, but in tech in general. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Future Signal. PoOn, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm excited. I really enjoyed meeting you in person in New York at our Aptos arena. So great to do this online and reconnect.
You already skipped ahead. I don't even get to ask questions. You already I'm so excited. We met in New York. We met IRL, which I think is rare in crypto. And I actually want to talk a little bit about that, what's going to happen moving forward there. But how's life? How's things?
It was great. I mean, I kind of jumped into that because I just came back from a trip to New York again. This time the weather was much nicer. We were, I think everyone was like sweating like crazy, and coming to our nice area that had fans and cold drinks. But yeah, I was just in New York to build up some IRL presence, do some things with the Farcaster New York community, with the real world assets community. There was a big conference, and just drum up excitement for Aptos being in New York.
So when I have people come on the podcast, I normally have an idea of things I want to talk about, but even in what you've just said, we're going to just detour. We're just going to go right to that.
Yeah.
Ideally, you're on here to talk about the importance of community in tech and crypto, because I think these are things that are slept on and people are like, why do you need community managers? Why do you need head of community? We're going to get into the importance of that. But you just talked about Farcaster. And this is where I have to admit a couple things. One, I do not think Future Signal is on Farcaster. Future Signal will actually be on something called Formless, which is it's kind of like a Farcaster. It's a decentralized platform for sharing content. Neither here nor there. I'm not on Farcaster, but when we met in New York, you said you were going to invite me to Farcaster, and I'm still yet to receive that invite. Now I'm putting you on the hot seat.
You're okay. You're calling
the hottest
me out.
Of seats.
I don't recall this because I've
well
onboarded
played.
a lot
Well
of
played.
people. that escapes my memory, but we can do it. Love onboarding people, and let's get you on. I think it's pretty easy, and I love the IRL component that I just mentioned because, yes, we're all online. We can be connected all the time. But Farcaster has been really interesting in that there's a whole community-driven movement to do in-person meetups. It wasn't the core team, but it was the community that started an annual conference, FarCon. And so that's been really wonderful to be a part of and to see that grow. So we'll get you on there. I want to make sure that you get to experience all of this too.
I absolutely need to be there. This is something that's been on I have a to-do list on my phone, as many people do in the notes section. And it's been on my to-do list for, I would say, 16 months or longer. And then when I met you in New York and we were at Permissionless, shout out Blockworks, it was like, okay, this is someone else who's a head of community at a very nice crypto project saying I should be there, just as I should be there as a person in crypto, beyond having my own podcast, beyond having a channel and an audience. You should be there because it's great. Can you actually, I didn't think we were going to go here, but can you talk to me about, for you, Farcaster, for you as PoOn and Poi Meets World, but then also you as head of community, trying to build community and expand things for a massive project?
Yeah, one way that I've thought of a Farcaster analogy is early days of the internet, where you have a group of people that are very, tech forward, techno optimists, crypto curious, and because they're early, there's also this sense of trust that you build with them. One quick side note that is related is my older sister. She's been in tech and startups for a long time, and when she was in the Bay Area, she found her first CTO off of Craigslist. They met on Craigslist, they met up in person, chatted, but now you wouldn't meet someone off Craigslist. There's just, it's gotten too big. There's a lot of scammers, people you might not trust. Whereas with Farcaster, I remember when I got onboarded just over 2 years ago, I joined, I met some people in person, and then when a friend tagged me in a cast and said, hey, this other person, they're going to be in your city, would you be willing to meet them? I had this automatic sense of trust that I know this friend who's introduced us. This seems like a tight-knit, emerging community, again, of very open-minded people that are interested in the future of decentralization and ownership and another way to do social media, that I said, yes, of course, like let's meet up. So I took this fellow and his wife, brought my husband out, and we all went hiking and got sushi. So there was a sense of trust. I mean, it's definitely growing, and it's not that same small knit group from the early days, but now they have different channels and communities, like think subreddits. So you can just meet people that are in your city or in your niche interest. So even though it's growing, and that should be the goal of, I guess, any social network to grow, to have the network effects, there's still little pockets where you can build these intimate groups of trust. One more plug for Farcaster is I'm also the co-host of, no surprise, the community channel. So we host some regular just Google Meets where all of us are community professionals, and we'll share some challenges or interesting trends in the industry. So that's like still a nice, cozy corner of the internet for us.
Well, let's go right there. And that was a great shout out for Farcaster. And once we stop recording, we will talk further about that because I need to be on there. I need to be on there. Future Signal needs to be on there. I am so unbelievably bullish about the future of decentralized social media. I just think over the next 5 to 10 years, it's just going to absolutely start to take over large parts of the internet. I'm super bullish on that. Can you actually share? Once again, we're down a different path now. This is exciting.
Yeah.
Can you share with me a trend that was recently shared on one of the Google Meets that you had with the community, fellow colleagues in the space, that was something shared that you were like, oh, I never thought about that, but now that you've said it, I see it everywhere?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. I
It's
do
a
want to
hard one.
address that, and I don't know if you'll need to edit this for the flow later. But there was just two more things I wanted to say about Farcaster that I think could be fun in terms of something that still happens when you have, again, this community where people trust each other and it still has early internet vibes. Is you know who Balaji is?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but obviously I've heard his 4 hour long podcasts. So a lot of these early believers of decentralization, network states, they joined Farcaster, like Vitalik's on there too. And where I'm going with this is it's very cool when you have access. And this was like early Twitter, and actually we can talk about that too because I worked at Twitter for 3 years, but not in the early days. I just heard lots of lore about those early days and the people you could have access to in terms of celebrities, politicians, just influential people. And so anyway, back to Balaji, he did an AMA on Farcaster, and lots of prominent people do, like Chris Dixon from A16Z Crypto did an AMA, Brian Armstrong did one. So he did one, and a friend, I won't name her, but she ended up joining the AMA and then ended up getting funding from him. So I think that would be another perk of why you and your organization should come on a Farcaster for interesting access opportunities like that. So that would be, I guess, a fun anecdote and story and lore. In terms of, I should get to your other question on something that was shared. What's nice about this space, and we've done a mix of just this Google Meet that's private. We're here to just experience, share with each other. Nothing is to be shared outside of the room. We're just here to support each other intellectually, emotionally. I know one of my friends in this community, and I think I tweeted this, so this is fine. but we said, oh, these chats are like therapy of other people that understand the benefits of community, but also some of the struggles and when it can be hard. And so I share this because that's one component, is this space to share. And then we've also done live streams where the same group will get together and still be open, but may not get quite as vulnerable. So I know what one person shared in the last group was around Kaido and Cookie and these basically Yapper leaderboards of wanting to get to the top of them. So, you can have that pride and badge of honor, but also that they're really toxic because sometimes people are just using AI and yapping about nothing meaningful, but they still care about that metric. So we sort of got into that of how it can be exhausting trying to like be on the timeline constantly, and then how do you balance that and getting attention for whatever you're building with still wanting to be authentic to yourself. So that's something I've thought about a bit. I mean, I'm someone that encourages the community to chat about our announcements and get excited, but I definitely empathize with how that's probably a lot on your mental health. Like I'm online a lot, but compared to say like a CT lead or someone who's running socials, that's not exactly my role. But I appreciate that vulnerability of like, oh, how do you balance that wanting to be online all the time so you can have that presence, but also taking the time to take care of yourself.
I love that you just shared that. And this is now very public, people know this. You and I were talking about this before we recorded. I recently left my job at Blockworks, and my job at Blockworks, or working at Blockworks, was like a dream job. I've been DMing Jason Yanowitz since 2022, and like the screenshots are there. And I've been trying to find a way to get into that organization because I just think what Blockworks does and the way they move, and I think Jason and Mike are such great leaders. Wonderful. I was there for 4 months and I left. And one of the things in my exit interview I was very, very open about was with my job, I was producing 2 podcasts. And for those podcasts, I'd need to be on X. And then as like a company mandate, it's like, hey, if you are already on X and you're moving and shaking and you have some contacts, like you need to continue to be on X and share all the stuff for Blockworks. One of the things I shared was like, I was so burnt out. And X is really toxic. And with a lot of the violence going on in the world right now, I was just like, this is not like, it feels Black Mirror. That's the only way I can describe it. Things like Kaido or some of the other stuff that's happened over the last couple of years that basically incentivize you to say the coolest thing in the lunchroom and then get points for it. It is a complete Black Mirror episode, right? And so I do think it's great that you have that outlet. I don't know anyone in crypto that doesn't have a couple chats that they like put stuff into and like, hey, can you hop on a call? We need to walk through this because like I'm just cooked. So you mentioned AI, and one of the things I actually want to ask you is about how AI plays a role in community. But we're going to bookmark that for 1 second. And I'm going to ask you a more difficult question. And these feel like interview questions. So you're going to have to you're going to have to give me some grace here. But for you, super, super simply, you meet someone, you're sitting next to them on the airplane and you're flying, you get like a 30-minute layover flight or whatever. And they're like, hey, what do you do, PoOn? And you know that whenever you go to tell anyone what you do in the world, you have about 3 sentences, 4 sentences, 30 seconds. And then the people just turn off if they don't really understand it. And especially if it has to do with crypto, now that has all these different implications. So before we get into AI's impact potentially on community building, I want to hear from you. What is the importance of community in crypto from your lens?
Yeah, no, great question, and I can see your lead up. I mean, I still admittedly struggle with who I tell that I work in crypto. Like,
Sure.
I don't know if you've seen those shirts. I think they're quite funny. Of my mom thinks I work at Bitcoin.
Yes. Oh, I work for a Bitcoin mining company, and so
Oh,
that
okay,
was
so that would
very
actually be true.
yeah. And people at the company are always like, "Today I was working for Bitcoin. Today I plugged in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Today I like made Bitcoin happen." So totally, I've seen those shirts for sure.
Mhm. Well, that's in your case, that would be more accurate versus
Sure.
a lot of us. That's not our actual job. I mean, I'm sure a lot of not financial advice, like invest in it, but I would say a lot of my personal circle from university friends, even the colleagues from my time at Twitter, which I really loved my experience there, and that was actually where I made the pivot to crypto. We can park that aside too. But generally, yeah, I don't say I work in crypto unless I'm at a crypto conference. But we're using your plain situation instead. I talk about how I build, nurture, and design communities. And I usually explain that the communities are bringing people together. And in my line of work, it's to meet some kind of business purpose. And what I'll also add there, which I think leads to or helps answer your question, is like why I'm so excited about my role is that I come from a family of startups and entrepreneurs. My sister was in the Bay Area during the Facebook era. Same with my partner and husband. And then I most recently worked at a Series A crypto DeFi startup. It was other fellow ex Coinbase employees, Coinbase funded. And so I've seen the struggles of startups, of trying to get this idea off the ground. And I see the value in when you have your early customers and community and evangelists that really love your product and can go evangelize you. I see that as such an important unlock of actually growing your startup idea. Again, when I was at this Series A, we were leveraging different communities to get their feedback, to like dive into personas. And so now that I'm at a place like Aptos that is well funded and wants to fund lots of great startup founders and ideas, I know how important community can be to support all these promising initial ideas and get them really fast feedback and hopefully users that end up loving the product and what it stands for so much that they're out there evangelizing it. So that's kind of a 2-part answer to like what I describe as what I do is I bring people together that care about the same values or mission, and then also why I care about this work because I know how much it can support startups, which I really care about.
I think you did a really good job with what you just said. And when I think about community, I think about Raoul Pal had a blog a couple of years ago where he actually called Bitcoin maxis like the Roman Catholic, or Bitcoin like the Roman Catholic Church in like the 1600s. It just doesn't really want to change. It's kind of slow compared to others, but there's like crazy evangelists, and it's just this thing that exists, right? And when I think about any cryptocurrency project, I think about it like mini religions. And
Mm,
what you just said is so true, because in any religion, if a religion pops up, if you and I create a religion and other people are like, "Oh, we really like that resonates with us," we have to nurture the hell out of those first 10, 15, 20 people
right.
that kind of get close to the fire, knowing that then they're going to create their own fires and bring their communities that they already have. And this just obviously explodes on the internet, right? And we don't, it sounds like most of the people who are going to listen to this probably understand who Balaji are and the idea of the network effect and the network state. So you mentioned, and we skipped ahead. Normally I'm like, welcome to the podcast. Tell me about your background and how does that influence, where we are today. So we've talked a little bit about some of the work you're doing today. We can talk more about Aptos later. I've got to give him a shout out. This is the first time I'm wearing in all of my podcast swag from a guest, which is a
Wow.
complete, yeah. Because normally I'm just, on brand. But let's actually talk about your time at Twitter. And I think you also worked at Coinbase, and just how you got to where you are. And you said it looks like in Twitter, that's where you made your shift to crypto.
Mhm.
And talk about that shift, because I'm sure there was a day where you were like, went home, or you closed your laptop, whatever it was, and you were like, I think I need to do this, and that being crypto.
Yeah. No, we can take this any direction. Loving that this conversation. I can't quite see the Aptos logo on the screen. I don't know if there's like a different vision. Oh, there we go. Okay, right. But nice, nice. Well, I'm very proud to be part of that moment of you matching the guest. I very much
This is the
appreciate
first
that.
time. This is the first time. I was
That's
like,
really
I
cool.
had two shirts, and I was
Yeah.
like, if I don't do this, I feel like PoOn's less excited. So let me just throw the shirt, because normally I have a black shirt. It says Future
Okay.
Signal, and that's
Yeah.
what you see on almost everything. But today I actually am repping Aptos. So anyway, sorry, I cut you off.
Amazing. No, never apologize for that. No one should apologize for what they're wearing and the merch they're repping, but so proud to be part of that moment. Okay, and also, yeah, that you did mention that. So I already had very high expectations. Things are going well. That just elevated. So thanks. You're bringing great vibes. In terms of Twitter, yeah. So I still call that my strong opinion, strongly held, is that Twitter was great branding. Like even people still say tweet, right?
Oh yeah.
It's one of those words you hear it and you kind of know, like short, like cute, chirp, like gets the message across. Anyhow, Twitter I loved. I was part of their. It was sold to me or pitched to me as this like startup with a startup of you're on the customer experience team and you're going to help like ideate on new ways to help with like customer delight. Actually, fun fact, my second month in the job, this was 2019, our team, customer experience, went on a trip to Disneyland to learn about Disney University. Like we literally had
Ooh.
Mickey Mouse in the graduation cap giving out diplomas after we had learned about how you create magical experiences for your customers. And how do you take negative moments, which of course are going to happen on Twitter or in any kind of customer facing role, and turn that into something positive, or even, turn someone who's complaining into someone that becomes a fan or advocate. So that was the team that I started on. Very cool. I also very quickly got interested in their volunteer program. So back then, they had these employee resource groups and wanted to just share more about, different cultures and backgrounds. So Twitter women, Twitter Asians, these types of resource groups. And we called them business resource groups, because at that time we saw the business case where if you have these groups, you can really empower your employees and also reach more audiences, because Twitter is all about people being online, using the product, talking about what's important to them. So there was a lot of business objectives that were met through these programs. And so when I joined in my orientation, the chair of Twitter Asians was speaking. And when she talked about these groups, I just resonated. I'm like, oh, I'm a community person. I've always done this, even if not in my main role, definitely in how I show up in civic engagement. And so that I share because that's how I built a lot of my community experience, is through not my official role, but through this volunteer role of hosting events, bringing people together. In our case, at that moment, it was for the Twitter Asians community. It was just seeing more Asian representation in theater and film, and then being able to like offer theater buyouts to our employees and to other tech ERGs and BRGs. So Square was just down the street, Uber, Airbnb wasn't too far away. So it was great to just bring all these people together to experience film and culture. And so that was very, I think, informative for me in realizing I really like this aspect of taking my skill set of connecting with people, bringing them together, partnering with other groups to really bring awareness to different initiatives and causes. And then in terms of my day job, after a couple years, it was actually my manager who said, PoOn, you're so good at communities. Let's make you the community's lead. So then I had a fun little title change. And then the last thing I'll share is in 2021, there was a strategic initiative, like cross-functionally with product design, and to actually launch a community's product. So Twitter, one of the complaints is, it's so hard to find who to follow or to find the right topics, whereas on Reddit, you can find all these niche subreddits. Like you can just look at, like right now, I don't know what you're watching in TV, but in girly pop world, The Summer I Turned Pretty. I don't know if that no, it doesn't. That's fine. That's fine. But there's like a subreddit for like any little niche TV show, and in Twitter we didn't really have that. Like there's hashtags, people to follow. So this initiative was, let's launch communities on Twitter so people can find their interest communities. So I joined that cross-functional team because I really cared about communities, had support from my manager, and wanted to bring my experience and knowledge and my team that could help launch this kind of product that could get people talking about the same sort of interest. And so again, summer 2021, that's when NFTs were blowing off. So we had already decided on a few interest communities that we should start with. And I don't know if I asked you this in person, but let's quiz you on air. Any guesses as a tech company trying to start a new community and wanting to start with ones that we had reasonable assumption to think would be successful? Like, what's the topic that you would start or you think would have a big following?
Well, you just said NFTs, so I would obviously want to go there. But I think like sports teams, I think are
Mhm.
probably low hanging fruit, maybe. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I feel like I just failed. If this was pass fail, I just failed.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, this is just an open-ended question of what you would choose, not what Twitter chose. But we did go with a sneaker community, like
Okay,
very niche,
sneakerheads.
passionate
Sneakerheads were blowing up
sneakerheads.
too.
Yep.
Yep, yep.
Dog community. Who doesn't like
Okay,
cute
so
dog
the
pictures?
dogs and babies. I mean, dogs and babies. People will. I tell anyone if you're starting a company, think about
Yeah,
dogs and babies because people don't have a budget. They will go into credit card debt for dogs and babies.
that's that. Yeah, there you go. So some marketing, free marketing advice
There you go, right there.
on the pod. So yeah, definitely dogs. Then the other niche ones was horoscopes or astrology.
Okay, okay, that's
There's a
very
community there. Very,
okay.
very niche. And then beauty, because a lot of beauty influencers and folks. So anyhow, those were the first ones we started with, and the idea was, okay, let's iron out lots of kinks in these initial pilot communities to see how people are engaging. Is it doing what we want? Are they bringing on new people? And then NFTs, because it was that summer that they were popping off. All those PFPs of the apes and the animals were showing up. So the team decided last minute, let's add that as a pilot. And I didn't know anything about NFTs, but
Hmm.
once I was on this cross-functional team and talking to the mods, which was Josh Ong and Not Katarina. They were the two NFT folks, and they had private invites, and that's how we launched the communities. Was, let's make it really gated so people have that sense of exclusivity, but then also so we can iron out like all the operations and logistics. So it was really through that. That's my long way of saying my experience at Twitter through the volunteerism, customer experience, and then also seeing NFT communities, that I was really wowed by just this sense of like identity, people having a voice, a say in the matter. Then I started going down like NFT rabbit holes and discords, and that ability to vote. And I thought, wow, I I talked a lot in the past about when I was doing my research on Reddit communities that you have all these mods and they put so much in, but they're not even paid, and it's all centralized at the end of the day. But then seeing this other way of doing things through, Web3 principles, I thought, okay, I know a lot about online community building. I know a lot about in-person community building. I don't know much about crypto and Web3. So I need to get into this. And that was my moment, is once we launched and I saw that activity and enthusiasm and the principles of how you're no longer just a customer or user, but you really have a voice as a community member, that really resonated with me.
You just said so many things, and I want to go back and make a couple notes. One, I still think of it as Twitter, and the reason why is because when you're on X, we can call it
Yeah.
X, and you want to tag at X, you have to type in at TWITT, and then it pops up at X.
Cool.
So that's something that I'm still like, until that's fixed, because like there's a
Mhm.
lot of people with at X whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And so anyway, okay, so you're at Twitter and then you see the
Mhm.
NFTs pop off. Now, when the NFTs popped off, did and I think you can probably share this because this is ancient history now, it was a couple of years ago in tech, but were the NFTs communities more active, more engaged, more bought in than the other communities?
Yeah, that's a great question, and yeah, not spilling any secrets because it was all like online, so you could follow it. But that one grew very quickly. I think it's because it was such a passionate, relevant group that everybody wanted an invite. So I remember feeling really really cool for like having these invites that I could share with people. So like I knew, let's just say influential people on Twitter, like by definition of they had a big following, and I was like, hey, you seem into NFTs. I have a secret invite code for you. Do you want to join? And so that felt really great. And then I was also limited, like I only had a couple. And so when other people wanted one, I remember giving some to friends, and then they each had a couple. So I'm like, oh, you should message them, and that kind of formed some new friendships and bonds. But definitely, I think that was one of the fastest growing communities because of the cultural relevancy and the hype around NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right at the perfect moment. NFTs peaked, I don't know, November, December, and then a little bit into 2022. But in the
Mhm.
spring of 2022 is when things really started to unravel. You had
Yes,
Terra Luna going down in May of that year. And then by October, November was FTX of 2022. So 2021 was like a golden era of
it was
NFTs.
it was perfect for that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
God, even thinking about that is like peak euphoria. You're at Twitter. You see the NFTs. How long does it take you to then switch and get in? And then did you get into Coinbase from there?
Yes, and one more thing about the NFT thing that was cool at Twitter, and I'm kind of sad that they got rid of this, is they also had the way of connecting your NFT through on-chain data to your profile
Yes.
picture.
Yes.
So then you had that hexagon.
Yeah,
So
the
that was like
hexagon.
another way
Oh
to
yeah.
have, a little flex, show you're in crypto, show you actually own the NFT. Because a common phrase I'm sure you remember was like, oh, you can just like right-click save. Like, why are people paying so much for JPEGs? Which I yeah tend to agree with some of that. But then by having that cool feature of like, no, you really own it, you have the hex. I thought that was a pretty innovative feature.
I love that. I put
You had
one
that
up
too?
that I put one up that wasn't anything famous. It's just like a friend who had minted one, and it was like,
Mhm.
this is a one of one. No one else has this. Cool. And then
Very
I
cool.
think a lot of people were definitely, and that was a time too where probably the spring of 2022. I think X you guys led or Twitter led, and then Instagram had it for a minute too, where you could put up an image tied to the blockchain and just basically give a little proof that it was something real. Because otherwise, on
Mhm.
Instagram, you could just right click save.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So Twitter,
Okay.
and then you go to
Yeah.
Coinbase.
Right, and I guess the one other thing I would add is that I started my career in government doing like innovation grants. So that's back to like my passion for startups, and I know how hard it is to be a founder. So if I can contribute with my unique skill set to help founders with promising ideas, then that's sort of the early genesis was Innovation Council back in Canada. And why I share that is because once I got the job at Twitter, so this is my break into tech, next era of my career, that was the first time I was issued tech stocks. And so as I'm hitting this inflection point of, all right, I've learned so much at Twitter, launching communities, having this new role, this is really speaking to a lot of my interest and where it can help other people. It all also coincided with, all right, I'm getting these tech stocks. I am very interested in also how to create wealth. I'm going to be honest, and so that was another interest into crypto. Of I think it was 2018, that whole Bitcoin run to 20K.
Sure,
That's when I
sure.
opened a Coinbase account, bought some Bitcoin. Then it fell, and I'll be honest, at that time, I just bought it because it was this new thing. I didn't actually really like go like deep into the philosophy. Whereas the second round, I was like, oh, maybe, yeah, with NFTs, decentralization, crypto, like let me really learn about this the right way this time. And that combination made me want to like get a full-time role in crypto and in communities. And so I did identify that Coinbase, that had already had their IPO, would be a safe way to be in crypto full time, but backed by a very reputable company. So that was very intentional on my part.
That's super strategic. And then how long were you at Coinbase?
Yeah, I was there for 6 months, and I guess in case there's anyone, or I don't know your audience yet, but if people are thinking about career pivots or how to make that choice, one piece of advice I'd gone was, don't change too many things at once. Like if you're going to change an industry, maybe bring the same skill set. So that's where I thought, all right, community skill set and expertise and knowledge, completely new industries. Let's find a way to make those two work.
So Coinbase 6 months,
Mhm.
and then from there right into Aptos, where you are today.
Yeah, no, not quite. I'm sorry, I
Mhm.
jumped the gun. I will say that the Coinbase, that was 2022, as you alluded to earlier, depending
Okay.
on how you cut this, really getting into the crypto winter with the Terra Luna collapse, and I forgot all the other names. This is before FTX, but I did think that now that I had worked at these big tech companies, like not as big as a Meta or Google, but 10,000 at Twitter. I think it was like 7,000 at Coinbase. So I had this opportunity to join a startup, like a Series A startup. I've talked about how passionate I am about supporting startups. It's like, okay, time to join one. And what was so cool is that it was founded by Coinbase alums, and it was funded by Coinbase Ventures. So there was that really nice connection. And I just really loved their mission. So this was a DeFi protocol that was helping emerging markets. And just long story short, not to shill, but just to share a bit of that journey, is at Coinbase, they had these educational lunch seminars, which I loved, where you could learn about different topics. And there was one called DeFi. And at the time, I'm like, okay, I keep hearing about DeFi, but I'm not like ready to invest my own money into this like yam farming or, like these interesting vegetable words. And I don't know where the money's coming from. So that didn't quite make sense to me. Whereas when I heard about this startup, and it's like, oh, you're taking out the middleman and you're helping people make loans directly to these emerging businesses, in different markets. So in like India and Africa and LATAM, so places that can't access these loans. That made sense to me. Like that actually had a mission of helping promising ideas get funded, giving the average person access to new investment opportunities. So it's more than just like, 4% savings. Like that seemed really honorable and interesting. And it was a way to also scratch my own itch of, okay, I was scared of DeFi before, or I didn't really know about it. Whereas now I can, learn on the job and again, bring that skill set of getting a community together, really empowering your customers and learning from them and bringing them into the product development mix. Take that skill set into, again, learning about a new area.
So were you at Coinbase and then somebody reached out to you and was like, we're going to do this. We want you to join. Or did you hear about it and you were like, hey, I want to help out. I want to run community for you guys.
Yeah, well, I did hear about the role and the company. It sounded really interesting. And at that time, I was very excited about what was going on with Coinbase. So I actually just honestly said, well, yeah, appreciate the opportunity. I knew one of the investors in the protocol, and I just said, well, there's a lot going on at Coinbase. I'm still new, and so I didn't take it at that time. But then a couple months later, the timing worked out.
Totally understand that. And then so from that DeFi project, then to Aptos or not yet?
Uh not quite yet. I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but during the DeFi project, we pivoted a lot. I mean, this is right in like the what do they say, the
The
bowels? I don't know if they say that, but right in the depths
I was gonna
Okay,
say,
not alls.
the depths of the bear market. Yeah, I mean, this is
That's
a
the bear market, the crypto winter, like FTX. I remember actually I was helping organize this investor dinner because we had some pretty like big whales and people that had invested in this DeFi protocol. And so we organized this nice dinner after Token in London. And it was right when FTX happened. So the dinner still went on, but everyone was like quite somber. Turning out they're like, oh, thank you so much for hosting. Sorry if we're out of it. Like there's just a lot happening in the world, which I completely understood. But that was, yeah, a crazy time. So all that to say is we, did a few pivots, had a whole like new product offering, new audience. So that was a very interesting experience to just take on all these new roles. And that's what I think is interesting about community is it's very connected to people. So once we pivoted, there was no community anymore for a new product. Instead, it was let's find out what that new community is. Like, let's start talking to people and seeing what that customer and persona looks like, and from there, trying to build a net new community. So that was the previous one, and then just before Aptos, was doing just some consulting again, startup. So was interested in AI, but still attending a lot of these different crypto events like FWB Fest I was a part of. I was also, and I think this is very strategic for people getting into crypto or wanting to explore different areas, is I was also working with a few different groups via grants. So Stand with Crypto, they were doing this whole tour. I mean, I knew some people from my Coinbase days, so I was doing some events with them and community building to bring awareness to the Stand with Crypto movement on both sides of the political party, and helping spread awareness of why crypto is important for Americans. And I was also doing some things with Base. So ex Coinbase, we were building on Base at the DeFi protocol, and then I still really enjoy that community. So doing some hosting, bringing Base builders together, and also potential users of their products. So had some fun local community events with them.
So one of the things we had put a bookmark in was talking about how AI is going to impact community. But before we do that, since we just talked about your background and you've been in Web 2 and you've also been in Web 3, today for you as head of community for a crypto project, what is the difference today with the tools that we have between building community in Web 2 and building community in Web 3? Like, how would you approach it?
Yeah, great question. I guess the biggest thing with Web3 is that you have that on-chain component, you have tokens, you have different ways of helping to create incentives for people to get involved. So you have, I would say, different levers. A lot of the things, though, in Web2, I think, and for whatever's next, like with AI, I feel there's still a lot there that's relevant in terms of IRL. So we talked about how you and I met in person. And I love the internet for bringing people together. Like we can do this recording right now. You can connect with folks in Vietnam. I run a global community team that covers Nigeria, China, sorry, there's so many that I'm losing it. We have a community manager in Japan, in Turkey, in LATAM, a couple in Canada. And so I just think it's very beautiful and such a privilege we have to be so connected. At the same time, I heard this quote of you could have all these, thousands of internet friends, but like who's going to look after your cat? And so I think there's and I don't that wasn't meant as a burn, but just showing that like we can be very connected, but there's still an importance and beauty of connecting with someone in person. So something that is still really important, no matter if it's Web 2, Web 3, Web 4, Web 5. Jack Dorsey, the whole like skip over to Web 5. The importance of meeting people in person, I think, is very powerful for any community builder if they have that ability to gather people, even if it's a small amount in person. And that's a great way to just look someone in the eyes and build that trust, build that rapport. I just came from a 2-week roadshow, meeting people, hosting community events, finding strategic community partners where, hey, you're a community of people that are interested in X. I'm interested also in X, but maybe like Y, and let's bring us together so that we can combine forces and learn about each other, see where we share values. But that in-person component really helps with the trust aspect, which I think sometimes can get lost online. So just trying to say that in person, I think will still be key. And that relates to as new technology, new AI, like what's a human, what's not. I tend to think that people will really crave more of those in-person interactions where possible. And even right now, there's Korea Blockchain Week going on, token. I mean, that can be very far. It can get very expensive. So definitely supporting. There are ways to do local community events where it doesn't have to be expensive, but you can still bring people together.
I think you just touched upon the AI aspect there, where you basically said you can't essentially replace a human. So I kind of leave that for right now. I think we can move on, even though we had that bookmarked, but I think you just did an excellent job talking about the difference
Cool.
between Web 2, Web 3, all the way up to Web 5. Shout out Jack Dorsey. What are like where does Aptos right now thrive? We've talked about Farcaster. There's Discord. I feel like Discord days have kind of gone with NFTs because you needed a lot of like token gating, and that's how you got in certain chats. You have Telegram. I feel like is one that is definitely on the rise. At least that's what I'm seeing from my vantage point. Looking down at my notes here, Twitch. I don't know. Like where are you seeing right now? Like where are you guys building at Aptos right now? And then where do you think like the next 6 to 12 months? Is there any pivot that's going to happen? Are people going to start to go to other things?
Yeah, great question. So I can share where we currently have a presence. So in terms of that global community team, shout out to them because they're keeping things running 24/7, like really leveraging the whole follow the sun, different community members. So of course we have a Discord. You just have to. I feel like that's table stakes. I do not claim to be a Discord expert, and that's why I leave it to the team. But one thing I think that's really important about communities, in addition to having the values and the same mission and interest, is also rituals. Like what's going to bring you together to gather. And so for the Aptos Collective, which is our ambassador program, we meet every Monday in Discord, and it's a chance to maybe have a surprise appearance from our CEO, Avery Ching, to come like give a very honest, authentic AMA, or we bring in founders to chat about what they're building and see who in the community wants to try it out, test it out. But also it's a place to like chill and chat. So Discord, I think, is still here to stay. Like a lot of people already on Discord, so it's easy to keep it open and join. But that's where I admit I'm not necessarily the expert. Telegram, I think, is just very important for the messaging. We haven't talked about this, but there's public facing communities. I think there's also a lot of private communities, like your own, group chats that can be really powerful. So I think a lot of those happen in Telegram, also in WhatsApp, and that's a little more, country dependent. I know the folks in our Chinese community, like they're on WeChat. Korea, they have their own platform. Twitter, when it comes to the broad reach, that's still where you have so much distribution and influential people and big names. So that's always going to be a place. We actually shout out to my former Twitter project, the communities that still exists. It was still valuable post Elon. So there's lots of great communities out there, and even on Aptos, we're trying to leverage that and grow that. Farcaster, I mentioned. So funny fact about that is someone was squatting on the Aptos community. So I just went and created a new one. I called it Aptos Club. Like still has a community feel, the little shout out to poker. There's a lot of, overlap between poker and crypto. But yeah, that's been a place that we are experimenting with. So I've personally been on Farcaster for a couple of years. Like I said, I host my own community channel that's just meant for anyone that's interested, curious in community building. And then I personally, along with my community operations lead, JC, who's amazing, I actually met her through the Farcaster community. And now she's on the Aptos team. Right now, we're trying to grow that presence and nurture folks that are interested in a new programming language and what we're building. So that's sort of the new experiments. And then lastly, the IRL component, like very, very bullish on that, and making sure that we empower local folks. So it's not, one person flying out around the world, but instead leveraging local expertise, local, on the ground personalities and people. So the community manager running Aptos Africa, Benjamin, he's been crushing it with lots of events in different universities. Mainly around Nigeria, Lagos region. But then we also have Stan in Vietnam, who did this amazing beach party. I don't there's not really like a beach I mean, there's nice places in the States, but very vibey. So doing a lot of that, like bring local folks that are either, yeah, they've been in crypto, maybe they are more familiar with Ethereum, and now we're teaching them about Move, or completely new people that like want to be part of this next wave of technology. So really investing in these regional communities is big for us at Aptos.
So before we talk about swag, and I'm
Oh,
excited to do that,
great
I want
conversation.
to, yeah, and this is not sponsored by Aptos.
Right.
I should divulge and say loudly that I am an investor in Aptos. I have, I've got Aptos. I should just say that out loud. But I was getting ready for the episode. I was like, all right, PoOn's going to come on. I want to ask PoOn about Aptos, but really, I'm interested to see what ChatGPT says. And I always just like asking ChatGPT, explains me like I'm
Yeah.
five. So I'm going to read a little bit, and I could even probably put the screenshot up if we clip this, but it says, explain Aptos' role in the broader crypto ecosystem to me like I'm five. This is me talking to ChatGPT. It says, the crypto world is like a giant playground. Ethereum is the biggest jungle gym where everyone is playing, but sometimes it gets too crowded and you have to wait in line. Solana is like a really fast slide, but sometimes it breaks down and kids have to wait for it to get fixed. Aptos is a new ride in the playground. It was built by some really smart builders who wanted it to be super fast, so no waiting in line, aka Ethereum. Safe, so kids don't fall off. Sometimes Solana breaks down. And easy to use, so everyone can play without help. In the broader crypto playground, Aptos is trying to be fun, safe, fast, new ride that attracts lots of kids, developers, and users who want to play games, trade tokens, and build apps without the slow lines or the broken slides. How do you think ChatGPT did?
Wow, that was great. I want to use it. And you are also now a member of the Aptos
I
community,
I think
and
I
you
just
can go
did.
in and represent us.
I just took the sword and I knighted myself. So
Yeah, I also, with the powers that are bestowed upon me,
thank
that
you.
was great.
Yeah, I thought that was actually like a very good
Mhm.
definition of like this is a layer one. This is I did some other prompts. It was like layer one. This is where it fits. This is where the builders like it, developers like it. This is why people want to invest in it. But I thought that that was just perfect. So I will screenshot that and I'll create a clip or something and share that. But getting now that we've laid out what Aptos is, if
Mhm.
you're listening and you don't know and how it fits into the ecosystem among Ethereum and Solana. Let's talk about swag because, as I said, this is the first episode I've ever not had my own swag on. So I have a shirt on and I could get up and turn around. I'm not going to do that, but I have my Aptos shirt. And then I wanted to bring this is a hat that I got, the
Oh,
Shelby hat.
Shelby. Oh, look at the color coordination.
Ooh, yeah,
Uh-oh.
the Shelby hat's crushing. And then this is something, this is like a handkerchief that is super great.
Amazing. Yeah, it
So I've
matches
never done
your
so
whole fit.
much. Yeah, the fit is on point, and I've never done so much like swag promotion. But talk to me about swag and how it plays a role because I think it is important that like the brand is out there on people. People walk around all over the world every day with Nike on their chest, and they don't maybe think of it like, oh, it's a cool brand. They're not thinking that they're doing free publicity, right?
Mhm.
So how does swag play a role, especially when you're talking about the importance of IRL? And when I think about IRL, anything with crypto, there's always like, oh, you should take that T-shirt, or you should take that hat, or you should do that. And shout out whoever did these shirts. I got two. I got one for my best friend. He's in crypto as well. And he's like, these are the nicest shirts he's ever
Wow.
had. He's like, this is one of my favorite shirts. So talk to me about the role. And then I also just wanted to say that piece about the swag.
Well, okay, it looked great on you. Shout out Colin and Jake on our design team that helped to craft it. A fun thing about Aptos actually is that every event that we go to, so right now the team is in Korea, they're going to go to Singapore and then come back to New York. But each event they'll do like a custom merch piece. So you can
Wow.
actually start to have this collector's kit or yeah, collector souvenir where if you're attending Toronto, Dubai, you'll have a special design that reflects the city. So you'd be like, oh, this is vintage from 2022, which fun fact, I was at the Aptos mainnet launch
You
in Las
were
Vegas. Yeah, in
just
2022.
by like coincidence of the universe.
A coincidence of the universe. So it's funny like how this all ties back. And I've actually never talked about my Aptos lore. So maybe this is like the little drop,
This is
and
the
then I'll
moment.
I'll add more.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is my moment. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was there in a very cool, and this is another part of IRL. Like, people remember the people most of all, but like a fun venue helps. And so they had actually chosen this speakeasy where you go behind like, a hidden door, and it's a ski lodge in Las Vegas. So they have like fake snow, and there was
Okay.
even, spoiler alert, there was a Yeti. Like someone dresses up as a Yeti and comes
Okay.
out. And so it's like very memorable. And that's where they had the celebration. And I had friends at Coinbase. I think they were involved with the listing, the day one listing. I think that's why. And this is I'm surmising that that's why they knew. But I got invited and went and got their original 2022 launch t-shirt. And then since then they do these fun logos, and they try to think of what's unique to that region to incorporate. So anyhow, that's a bit of Aptos merch. Secondly, super agree that when you can wear something identifiable, then that signals to other people at an event or walking the streets like, oh, we're part of the same community. We have some kind of shared interest and alignment. And I have a fun show and tell. This is not Aptos related, but
Let's
it is
do it.
very
Let's see
cool.
it.
Okay. Can you read what
I
this hat
can't
says?
read the hat, but you could
Okay.
send me a wait. The Department of Agriculture yield bearing assets. Love that.
So this is a cute hat, and it's a nice example of consumer crypto because on the side it says tap to harvest every Friday. And anyone who bought one of these hats was put into an optional Telegram group. So back to like the different mediums for where
Hmm.
communities can
Okay.
gather, share intel, and learn from each other, support each other. We have this Telegram group in addition to a ritual where every Friday at some unknown time you'll get an alert to tap this hat and earn yield. So like it's a interesting mix of, again, like how you can be creative in consumer crypto, have this like live wearable, and forming a community and ritual around this moment. So everyone's like frantically texting every Friday of like, is it time to tap? Did I miss my window? And then in between, there's also been some really cool brainstorming around like marketing or crypto trends. So yes, it's what brought us together is we like this hat, we want to make a few dollars every week, but there's also the opportunity to build something bigger and form even small pockets within that group. I think there's, I want to say like 200 something in Telegram group, but even a few of us helped to host an IRL event. So bring it back to the IRL, getting to shake someone's hand in person and chat more about what you have in common, what you're building, and how you can support one another. So, anyways, I didn't know if you were going to talk about merch, but I'm so happy you did because I have this hat to share as an example.
Yeah, like I said, my buddy said he's like, this is one of my favorite shirts, and so this is definitely one of my favorite shirts. And somehow my entire wardrobe now is just 100% cotton crypto swag because it's really well designed, really well
Mhm.
made. But this is at the top, this shirt.
Love that.
So yeah, I wanted to shout that out. I on my roadmap for this episode, I was like, I have a couple things that I think I want to ask, and one of them is, as the head of community for Aptos, obviously that's your jam. But do you guys ever, and I say this because at all the companies I've worked at in
Mhm.
crypto or projects I've been a part of, we're looking over the fence and we're seeing what our neighbors are doing. And we're like, I really like what they did there. I don't like the rest of it, but I like that one thing. And I like what they did over there with
Mhm.
whatever this thing is, right? To use the metaphor of like our neighbors. Who for you does community really well in crypto? And it doesn't necessarily need to be a specific project. Like I mean, like a crypto or a blockchain. It doesn't need to be a layer one or layer two. It could be an NFT community. It could be somebody's Telegram group because they're an influencers or something. But like, who are you maybe looking at? Who are your neighbors that you steal things from? You don't necessarily need to say what you steal from them or what you don't want to steal from them, but who are you looking at?
Yeah, no, I can answer that. I know in terms of the looking over your shoulder, looking at competitors, something when I was at Coinbase that we used to say a lot, and I think it also borrows from principles of Amazon, is like, okay, you don't want to spend too much time looking at competitors. Like you really need to just focus on yourself and how you can serve your audience, customers, community, which I appreciate and I get that philosophy. That being said, I think it's so important to yeah, borrow and learn from other people doing great ideas. And it doesn't have to be, like, I believe in this a lot, of being part of different types of communities. So of course, yeah, my full-time job is crypto, that is 24/7, doesn't sleep. But I also have a lot of other communities that I care a lot about. So I'm part of local startup and tech communities, or like I do these small 8-person founder or startup operator dinners so that I can get out of my bubble, if you will, and not only be thinking about crypto. Like there's also other things going out in the world in tech and AI that maybe I can learn from and bring it back to crypto, and vice versa. So that is something that's important to me, is staying involved with these different communities. One of my friends I met from a podcast fandom. She started a whole community to bring people together that are fans of, say, Brian Johnson or My First Million or the All In podcast. And so I like chatting with her and seeing like what are the trends in these more maybe like tech communities, not necessarily just crypto. One community I'm a big fan of, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that follows me, is Boys Club. Like they started off as this women's social DAO. Now they've really established themselves as being like super cool techno optimists, like crypto forward, very relevant with culture, and they are chain agnostic since they're a media company. Like they're there to cover like what's the latest in news. So I'm so delighted that we formed a community partnership with them, because they have their own audience that they can bring to Aptos and vice versa. And they'll be on the ground covering our big conference in New York. So they're ones that I'm big fans of, and so glad to bring them on as a partner. And they did just recently cover Basecamp, which you could say is a competitor because they're another chain. They also covered Avalanche and others. So it's cool to be able to like not worry about that exclusivity, and partner with other just good people that you can learn from and bring good vibes and good energy. I don't want to cop out though on your question. So I do want to, even though you gave me that excuse, like, oh, it doesn't have to be a little one. I'll give a shout out to the Monad folks for doing those really cool cards. Like everyone was talking about these personalized, Pokemon cards. And it was very interesting that they didn't airdrop it to their existing community. Like they purposely tagged all these influential people on Twitter and kind of second degree connections, and made this moment where you're like, that's really cool art. I want a personalized card. So I'll admit, like someone said, hey, I'm happy to nominate anyone that I'm friends with. So I'm like, oh, feel free to put my name in. So when they did their second round of airdrops, I did tweet like, oh, here's my Monad card. Like, it's cute. I like it. So I think they did a really good job of creating a moment that people wanted to be a part of, leaning into that personalization, also leaning into, people wanting to be a part of something. So when they saw, oh, I didn't get one, like, who do I know? I thought that was well done.
That was a really well done thing. That like took over X for days,
Mm.
and people, it was perfect amount of FOMO, perfect amount of like exclusivity on like the release. Very well done. Very well done for them. So shout out that. People getting into crypto, oftentimes you had a really good bit here. You said, look, like if you're going to be changing careers, don't change too much.
Mm.
If you're doing HR in Web 2, just try to do HR in Web 3, even if you want to do something else in Web 3, but like make the change, and then you can, once you're on the team, start to see where maybe you can add value. For people listening who want to get into community managers, head of community, what's a tip that you have for them?
Oh, I love this question, because I have seen really great examples in Web 2 and Web 3 of just by being a fan of a product or a protocol and sharing your enthusiasm. Or even if you're using a product and you see bugs and you can share, like, hey, this isn't working, here's an area of improvement. Like that will get you attention from the team. Like that could even get you the attention from the founder or like C level. In Notion, like, very Web 2 tech. A lot of people use Notion. I've really been inspired by the journey of Ben Lang, who was not an employee of. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I
Okay,
do.
cool. Well, just for anyone else, where he just started creating Notion templates on his own out of his pure passion and interest. And then they went and hired him. They're like, oh, we need this person. Like he's really adding value out of something that he cares about. Same thing for Farcaster. like they also, have seen people that are big fans, brought them on. And so I think that community is a great way to get an in. So like if you are new in your career or wanting to make a pivot, I think community roles where you can, be an ambassador as like a first step of showing, hey, I really love this product and I want to create content about you or help evangelize you. I want to host events. I think that's such a easy way to get in. And a lot of people, you can get funding. Like we have funding for creators. Like I tend to think a lot of community folks are creators because you're creating content that onboards new people or you're creating really helpful feedback. And so there's lots of creator grants out there. And Aptos also has that for anyone who's listening, get in contact. But I think that's a really easy in. And then even in terms of learning the ropes by being a community manager. So a lot of the folks on my team, like they're out there helping to amplify the big announcements, the tech improvements that we make from the labs and foundation side, or we are talking about like the latest project and here's a new fun thing to try. So if you're someone who's curious, I feel like community is a great way to get your foot in the door to just try things, be authentic about what actually excites you, like join the thing that you're excited about. And then from there, you can learn more about marketing and funnels, BD and partnerships. Like I would say community is very interesting because it does touch upon so many parts of the business. Like I talk to the product team because they want focus groups of like, oh, what's our community saying? What are they using? How do they feel about this launch? And so that's also, it could be a bridge to product if that's something you want to do one day. But I feel like community in crypto makes it very accessible for people to easily, get a foot in the door and learn about projects and add value really, really quickly.
Perfect answer. Super excited to probably clip that, throw it on YouTube, and people were like, this is how you work in community for crypto. Excellent. Last question. When I rebranded this podcast used to have another name and I went for Future Signal. It was totally the idea of there's like a bunch of noise, you have to find the signal. And I just threw future on it because it's an easy word for people to spell. That's like the
Nice.
branding. There it is. And so for you, and this could be about community, this could be about crypto, ideally it's about one of those two, but for you, what is like a future signal that you personally are looking at? Something that you are really bullish on or thinking that maybe people aren't seeing, but you're seeing that you want to share with share on the pod.
Oh, love that. I I feel like I might be being repetitive if I say
It,
community,
it could be.
but
It could be. Well, yeah, because I was gonna say I was gonna ask you about community, but I feel like we've talked about
yeah.
community a lot, and I know that you've been around crypto
Mhm.
since 2018, and you've been professionally in crypto for 3 to 4 years ish. I mean, I know that may seem like 2 decades. I know it does for me. So, you know, choose community or crypto, either way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we've already talked about this, but and this isn't an original tweet, but someone I really admire and look up to in the industry is Claire Cart, CMO of Aztec, and she's not the one who's tweeted this, but just said, oh, anyone can copy tech, but community is your moat. And so as I think of the advancement of tech and okay, in crypto, people can just, fork code and like literally copy everything because it's open source. But also with the advancements of AI and other tech, I really feel like that people aspect and that human aspect and like connecting with your customers, with your audience is really key. And even I just came from what is it? The All In Summit, which is people that like the podcast. One of the women that I've met who's done community building, she has actually pivoted and launched a dinner club series because that's really popping off is this idea that people like want to connect and maybe that's for friendship and maybe that's to find some business connections or get some mutual support, but these dinner clubs have really just blown off with folks wanting to connect of okay, I need other ways, I'm not in school anymore, so how else am I going to meet new people that have similar values? So I found that to be very interesting. And I guess in terms of okay, what's forward thinking that I haven't said yet, we also think about business at the end of the day. Like all these folks are running a business. We want to, be successful, get customers, get an audience, build wealth, and KPIs are something that we think about a lot in business, like sales. It's all right, your revenue, what you're generating, your leads. In marketing, it's a lot of impressions, how your campaign did. In community, I think a lot about the like not just numbers and reach, but like the depth. Like, are these quality community members that are contributing and like really adding value back by creating original content, evangelizing you, like wanting to create events, like giving really valuable feedback. And so something that I haven't quite verbalized in terms of KPIs is friendship as a KPI. Like I think about that from my recent events, and as I think about these dinner clubs are really popping off, and how people, yeah, they want to connect and actually also make friends. I think that's really powerful because I think people will look at you and say, hey, I like Jared, I like what he stands for. Here's what I learned from him, and so they'll be influenced by what are you listening to, or what are you interested and excited about, so that I don't know if I'm getting too off kilt, but I think that friendship component is also, yeah, like an interesting KPI.
No, I think that's amazing. I think thinking outside of like MRR and impressions and the cost per acquisition type things. I think that there's a lot of proxies that are super powerful in crypto and in podcasting and in media and just anything. So I think friendship is a great one. I'm excited about that.
I wasn't super clear. Like that's been kind of a fun qualitative piece of feedback from the Aptos community or the Farcaster communities, is when they say, "Hey, I joined your community. I came to this event, and I'm making friends out of it." I think that's a really powerful one because it also helps with that stickiness. And back to like, okay, people could change the tech they use, but if they've made a really good connection, they'll want to stay more. So just wanted to add that part.
No, that's a great point. Great point. I think communities are so important in crypto. I think they're the reason why people stay. I know for me, like I've shared on this, I've been burnt out and I've been like, oh, and if it wasn't for some chats and wasn't for some people and connections I had through like total communities, I don't know. Maybe I'd be doing something different. That's a lot, maybe less stressful, but also a lot less exciting. What I'd like to do is I'll add in your contact info into the show notes. So if people want to
Great.
reach out to you, they can find you. I think your ex is phenomenal at Boy Meets World, and I'll leave
Thank you.
that in the show notes. And I just really want to thank you for coming on. I think that this has been great. And as Aptos continues to grow and there's other things, I hope that you reach out and you're like, hey, we're doing
Totally.
this. This is new. Because I think community and the apps that like bring community together, especially over the internet, are going to continue to evolve. And I'm still thinking that there's going to be something that's like better than Telegram, better than Discord, better than WhatsApp to kind of make it happen. And I don't know what that is. I think Base is making some interesting things, but I don't think they've cracked it either. So maybe Aptos will do it, but I'm hoping that you feel an open door here and that you want to come back on and talk about community, because I think it's the most important part of crypto once you get obviously past the tech side. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe. Listening this on a podcast platform, please go ahead and subscribe. PoOn, thank you once again for taking the time.
Thanks so much for having me. This was awesome. I got this mic just for this conversation. Just kidding, but also not kidding. It was so wonderful to be a part of this. I did admit that I was nervous about doing this recording, but you're such a wonderful host, so engaging. Really enjoyed this. Thank you.